Hello dear viewer, dear listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe, the host of this show, Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. As always, I do my best to bring impactful, life-changing information to you. And do I have a wonderful subject and a wonderful guest for you. We're going to talk about broad-based citizen economic empowerment, and I have none other than a prominent businessman, Mr. Gaobakwe, Mr. Bissau Gaobakwe. Welcome to our makeshift studio, Mr. Gaobakwe.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure. Always a privilege to see you.
We're going to go straight to the meat of the matter, but before we do, tell the viewer who you are. I've known you for many years, but some viewers may not know you in terms of what activities you are involved in, what your background is.
Okay, I'm a retired entrepreneur, but I get active if I feel like I'm hearing a calling, or I get a calling to somehow help in some way uplifting our citizens. And I've been doing a lot of work around mental health, meaning I've been building rehabs, and I've been doing a lot in terms of helping young entrepreneurs get into business.
Okay, this is wonderful. How long ago did you retire?
10 years ago.
Okay,
yeah.
I know that you're involved in all kinds of enterprises, including telecommunications,
yeah,
and so on. Today we're going to talk about broad-based citizen economic empowerment, and the good starting point for such a subject is what are the causes of citizen economic disempowerment?
Yeah.
For there to be empowerment, there has to be a recognition that we have a problem. What is disempowering us as citizens?
Well, there's a background to it. The truth is, I think what we're discussing right now is the uneven distribution of wealth amongst our citizens across the floor. And so basically, there's this, it seems, or it is, you'll find out that there's a lot of foreigners and naturalized citizens, by that I mean non-black citizens, that seem to have more wealth than us. But they own various businesses, from supermarket retail shops like Choppies, Sefalana, and retail outlets like Lekarama. They own motor vehicle distribution centers, dealerships like Motor Center. They own phone shops like Cell City. And the truth is, all those businesses are powered by the black population, but the wealth is not within the black population. So that's something we're trying to address right now, to see how everyone in Botswana can get a fair share of the wealth. But the reason why the focus is on the black citizen is simply because he's been disenfranchised, and there's various reasons for that. One of them at the top of the list is the challenges that we face as black people, really, in comparison to other citizens or foreigners, has a lot to do with our lifestyles. Our lifestyles seem to attract a lot of distractions through temptations. I mean, we all know that in Botswana, we hardly get discouraged to be involved in alcohol consumption. We've got a problem of drug abuse, and generally, I don't remember, being openly discouraged by even older guys from having multiple girlfriends. And all these things put together, put you in a situation where you're not always productive, or in other ways, you are easily distracted. All these things I've mentioned to you are regarded to as pleasures of the flesh. So we're usually distracted by pleasures of the flesh. I mean, to give you an example that I was discussing earlier, is you'll find out that in Botswana, if you drink from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's regarded normal. But if you really look into it carefully, that means you're drinking 4 times a week. And there's 52 weeks in a year. 52 times 4 is 208. That means for those 208 days, you're not productive. Not only are you not productive, but you're spending more cash than you normally would. Everybody knows that when we drink, we become unbelievably generous, you know. Motho o kgona go tima dijo during the week, but ka weekend they never go time bojang. And
so it sounds to me that like we have contributed to our own disempowerment.
we have, I mean, generally your attitude in life is whenever you have an uncomfortable situation to yourself, the first thing you must do before you can solve the problem is address yourself. So what I'm trying to say to you is that it might entail you to change your situation first before you can change your family's situation and before you can change your community situation or your country's situation. And that change has to come in the form of sacrifices. Like I said, we're distracted by pleasures of the flesh. This is, like I say, in comparison to, say, the Indian community, who at large, I'm not saying they don't have distractions, I'm not saying they don't have drug abuse problems. They definitely don't drink by religion. They pray 5 times a day, so they're able to at least try and fight off temptations. I've never seen Dada in a restaurant personally. I hardly see his kids. I've never seen his kids in a nightclub. So they live a life where they go from home to work and back to the gym, and that's admirable, and you know, we bow down to that. So I'm saying to you, there is no progress without sacrifice. So if you want to make progress, you're going to have to make sacrifices. You might have to stop drinking, I would recommend. You might have to stop doing drugs, I definitely recommend. And I'm not really, you know, I'm an African. I don't have anything against polygamy or anything like that. I don't practice it because I feel handling more than one woman causes a distraction. It's difficult to please a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes us to the next issue, which are the challenges of citizen economic empowerment. There's been a lot of buzz around citizen economic empowerment. Even our government has put it, at least on paper, as one of its key objectives. So what are the challenges around C.E.E., which is citizen economic empowerment?
Look, whenever we talk about business, there's always, we can't talk about business and not talk about money, and money in all kinds. There's something we call seed capital. That's the money you start a business with. Once again, trying to introspect is you need to understand that other communities seem to be to feel very strongly about the family background, about having a family. I'm saying a child having a mother and a father. This contributes immensely to how the child grows up, especially when it comes to affordability. For example, you know, I just got married because I feel that it gives any child who comes within a married family a better chance in life. When I address this point to money, the child is able to have security. You know, it's the first problem we have. And this is a special moment where I want to address ladies that choose to have children outside marriage, because I think a big part of it can be controlled by them. Is they disadvantage their kids and they disadvantage themselves. I'll give you 2 situations. If you get a CEDA loan approved for a significant amount, or any bank, you're going to need security. But we're now it's our guy's security. So we need to stop thinking in terms of generational wealth. So everyone that's working needs to understand that they're working so that their children can have better opportunities than them. That's the first thing. And so secondly, not just the money, but mentorship. You know, I was fortunate that my father was a business person.
He was my mentor, by the way.
Excellent. All right.
With his time.
And the story continues because you are my mentor now. So what I'm trying to say to you is that it's guidance is key. I mean, for example, we've got programs in Botswana like the youth programs where you're giving kids 100,000 to start a business. There's no way close that can be enough to start anything. It costs 100,000 to make mistakes, because if, for example, you had a business where you were wanting to print t-shirts, it's going to take you a while to find the right printer, to find the right material, you know. So another problem is, what I'm saying is, if you don't have a father that's in business, you must look for a mentor. In fact, these programs must be designed to say you can't start a business with government money without a mentor, and preferably a mentor that puts his own money in your business so that you are guided, because business is like everything.
He's got skin in the game. He's invested in it.
And look, if you know anything about sport, which professional athlete, soccer player, tennis player plays the sport without a coach? It doesn't happen, right? And equally, going back to lifestyle, when you're looking at someone like Ronaldo, if you look behind his life, do you see the sacrifices that he makes to be a top athlete? He doesn't drink probably, doesn't chase girls, doesn't do drugs. He sacrificed a lot of things. When he left Portugal, or like when Drogba left Ivory Coast, he left his best friends, his childhood a girlfriend, his future wife, to pursue the sport. So you have to make sacrifices if you want to play world class.
Yeah, Mr. Gaobakwe, the next nugget of wisdom that I want you to share has to do with a thing you've talked about in your Facebook post called Batswana Economic Revolution.
Yes.
Sometimes when one thinks of revolution, you think of the Russian Revolution in 1917. You think of a major uprising. You think of the Chinese Revolution in 1948. When you're thinking about Batswana Revolution, and you're not talking about a political revolution, are you? You're talking economic revolution. But can you speak to that and explain to the viewer what you have in mind?
Look, I just don't only call it a Batswana revolution. I call it a black empowerment revolution. And and I'm not a politician, so I don't have to shy away from it. You know, it's a fact that, like I've mentioned before, if you look at the people at the top of our food chain, right at the top, you've got Mr. Dada, who owns Motor Center. Then you've got Sadao, who owns the World Group. You've got Ram, who owns Choppies, and Farouk and Mohammed. You've got Gulam, who owns Tenstar. You've got Jagdish, who owns C.E.E. Sales. You've got Mooney. You've got Honda. Then you've got the white gentleman, Ian Thompson, Brink. You've got Maynard, who owns Cash Bazaar. And there is no Botswana.
But they've all worked very hard.
We agree. We're going to address that. And we've addressed that partly, or to say sometimes they're more focused. There's two reasons behind this. These are facts that we're stating. And there's no Botswana really that comes close to them in terms of wealth. But all their money comes from Botswana, 99.99 Botswana, which then tells you immediately that if we set up our own businesses, provided that we can either set up our own businesses in partnership with them, or we set up our own businesses with the right management, because they've had vast experience. I need to speak to that for a moment. When this country got its independence, our parents were focused on setting up government and setting up infrastructure. For example, my father was a Harvard graduate, and he was the first commissioner of taxes. So he set up the tax system in Botswana. Mr. Merafi set up the police and the BDF and so forth and so on. And so our parents were focused on setting up government and infrastructure. And they were also involved in the politics, and we've had one of the best democracies in the whole world. You can only really do one thing at a time, and this gave our Indian brothers and our white counterparts a chance to focus on farming and retail and so forth. So naturally, that's going to create a gap. There's no way I'm playing more soccer than you, while you are playing cricket and you can play as good soccer as well as me.
Yeah.
There's something called the 10,000-hour rule.
Yes.
The more time you spend on something, that you become a perfectionist almost at it. But
Malcolm Gladwell
revolution,
wrote about that
revolution actually means a complete turn of events, complete turn. So we're addressing the fact that there's been a complete turn, firstly in generation. I'm probably like a first generation businessman, because my father in strict terms told me, should you ever be employed, I will disown you, I'll never speak to you. I said, what do you mean? He says, no, you have to become an employer, so you are part of the solution instead of being an employee and being part of the problem. And when I'm saying this, I'm not saying that people shouldn't work, or I'm saying you go to school, not forever, then you work a little bit, not forever, so you can start a business that makes you a lot of cash. Hopefully then you can buy property like Mogobe, and then you can spend the whole day talking with Bissau to help Botswana, so that knowing that we're earning rent, both me and you, so it's called passive income. So I'm saying to you, it's time for a revolution, because we are now
a new mindset.
And the mindset is very simple. All I'm saying is, If we each take out home, like money equivalent to what you can buy a car with between 5,000 and 10,000, and 1 million of us do that, we can, and 1 million times 10,000 is 10 billion. We can then use that money to buy assets, and these assets could be anything, and we're already working on these deals. We're working on buying Payless, which just got liquidated. 10 billion is a lot of money. I mean, Telecom, BTC, is only worth 500 million on the stock exchange. So if we bought that, they still have another 9.5 billion left. We should buy property. We're in the process of buying finance house right now. You could buy, we've been invited to buy into concessions in the Delta so we can get into tourism. Thank you to Honorable Peggy Sirame right now. You know, we've got our own water because she closed the borders, and we showed our capability. So our stress, we're capable. This here bottle, this brand is owned by Kitso Mutsidis.
What's it called?
Fresh.
Yeah. It's
owned by Kitso Mutsidis. I work with them, and he's going to sell half of his company, Botswana, by own. So what we're saying is that, you know, we need to support our own businesses, but as we do that, we need to accept that, you know, maybe we don't have experience in certain areas. So we must work with other communities, both Indian and white, you know, to help us with management. We must adjust our lifestyles. But what happens with this fund is that we're raising this 10 billion is, I've instructed a regulated investment management firm that's regulated by INBEFIRA to manage that money and to manage these investments. And our job is to promote this initiative and to look for viable investments. So that way we can own businesses that we support.
So the viewer obviously watching you is asking himself, how can I be a part of this? It sounds interesting.
It's really quite simple. Like I said, we are asking every citizen in Botswana to contribute whatever money they have towards the fund. The money remains yours. So what happens is very soon we'll be making a call once we're finished with the regulator. We're using regulators for best practice governance to make sure there's accountability and transparency so that the investor is protected. So you would go to any bank and open a Revolution account for as little as 500, if that's all you have. Then you can, in the meantime, save to us to have 10,000. So this is your money. That money that you have that's in the bank that's under this Revolution account will be earning a higher than normal interest rate because it's part of 10 billion. So we've negotiated a high interest rate. We would be negotiating.
Probably what, 5 to 10%?
I wouldn't know. We'll try and get as much as we can. That's the secret. Yeah. And then what this allows is it allows kids that are also the youth that doesn't have money to know how to save up, because having a precautionary motive is very important. So you can save up to 10,000. Say, for example, like now, when we have a building like Finance House that we are offering Botswana to participate. Finance House is located in the government enclave. We take that building, we register it as a unit trust with INBEFIRA, and the building is worth 70 to 80 million. Let's say 70 million. Then what happens is every Botswana, say 1 million Botswana, can then buy a unit, because we'll divide that building into 1 million units for 70 pula. And 1 million of us can own this building for as little as 70 pula. And then the government, since it's in the government enclave, can participate in empowering its people by one of the government departments going in there, whether it's Office of the President or Ministry of Tourism or whatever. So that's how that's how it works.
Okay. Well, it's all very well. It sounds like a wonderful dream. But if you read a book called The Magic of Perseverance by Rema Khan, and if you also consider my own experiences and many other Botswana, there's a thing called Civil Service Sabotage, or sabotage by civil servants, where civil servants seem to be constantly throwing the spanner in the works and frustrating efforts by Botswana businessmen. Rema Khan documents it very eloquently in his book, and I've seen people write about it on social media non-stop. How do we tackle this, which is almost like an elephant in the room?
Look, it's very important to understand that if you have any strategy that doesn't involve sharing at all, any strategy that doesn't involve sharing, it's not gonna be sustainable, because it's not in line with God. So for example, the sun shines on all of us, it rains on all of us. Land is supposed to be free for all of us. So if you're gonna have anything that disenfranchises people. So what I'm saying to you is that civil servants are human beings, when I and then you ask for a lease, hey, why are you getting all this money and not them? Yes, we know you worked hard for it. So this is why our strategy is to make sure that all our investments are owned by, or possibly owned by, every Motswana. So I'm saying to you, civil servants should be allowed to participate in business, provided they declare their interest so that there's no obvious conflict, you know. So I'm able now with this building, with this finance house building, to go and offer it to all the ministers, all the MPs, all the civil servants. And if you don't adopt a concept of sharing.
My problem, without interrupting you, is when maybe there's a tender and the civil servant who's administering that tender, maybe a member of the ministerial tender committee, is adjudicating over that tender where his company has shares. Even if you declare interest there, surely that is unseemly, that is not right.
Look, it's up to the employer of that person to be able to call him out and say, listen, you can't participate in deciding where this tender goes. But talking about tenders, our formula still works. I don't think once our idea works, there will be any company in Botswana able to win a tender if it doesn't have a lot of black shareholders, you know. So for example, all the roads that you see that we all use are built by Botswana money through tax money. So if my idea of our companies winning tenders is that I will make sure that that company that tenders, say maybe against yours, that has you only as a shareholder, has got a lot of Botswanas as shareholders, and Botswana that not only add value in ownership of the company, but some being engineers, some being in logistics, some being painters, some and so forth. So unless you are sharing, unless you adopt a situation where you are sharing, you're always going to have this problem. But to address your particular question, every employer in government should be able to say you can't participate in this particular tender because you are benefiting for it. You don't have to lose your job, but you can step down from that decision being made when you are part owner of that company. Yes.
All right, now we're going to go into a little more detail, talk about actual specific solutions. You've mentioned a couple of vehicles you've created, special purpose vehicles to invest, for instance, in finance house. But I want you to speak more about a formula that can be adopted in terms of a new mindset that Botswana can adopt in terms of exploring possible solutions.
Look, the mindset has to start with ownership. It has to start completely with ownership. So what I'm trying to address here is that if you are going to be the main customer of any business, main customer, then why aren't you the owner of that business? So somebody needs to explain to me why we're not black people in America. We're black people in Botswana, which means we're a majority. Somebody needs to explain to me, for example, why there's for example, Mascom as a company, all right, that's owned 53% by South Africans through MTN and 7% by Zimbabweans via Econet, when all the money generated in that company comes from us via conversations and communication. So the mindset is ownership. The mindset is customer-owned businesses, because we are the majority. That's the only mindset. So I'm telling you that even it doesn't matter what it is, you have to wake up in the morning and say, okay, I need a haircut. I'm going to a barber shop that's black owned, all right? That's a mindset. I'm going to a barber shop that's renting space, okay, from a landlord that's black, like Mogobe. You understand what I mean? I've heard of stories where for example, I know businesses like the Bright Place where they're being blocked from entering certain shopping complexes because they're not owned by us. So if he's a food outlet, somebody who owns Nando's might use their influence to block. I'm not saying this Nando's blocked anybody. I'm just giving an example. Might have
It's an example.
owned.
Yeah.
And when I talk about mindset as well, as this thing of us raising 10 billion is something that we've seen being done. A fraction of our population, the civil servants, have
pensions.
have through contractual savings managed to save up up to 100 billion. That money is not even being spent here. Most of it, 70% of it gets spent outside. So once again, that's a bad mindset. Most of that money should be developing the country. It should be here so it can be taxed here. You know, up until there's no room for it in Botswana. You understand what I'm saying? And that BPO of money is money that is savings from our parents and us. And that means the businesses that it buys, whether it's Cell City, whether it's Sefalana, whether it's Choppies, let's use Sefalana and Choppies, it's BPOPF money. That means it's owned by our parents. Our parents should be having share certificates for that. So BPF must buy businesses, so should Babereki, and then give shareholding to the parents. So that's something that we're going to do. We're going to buy all these Sefalana shares as the revolution and sell them to the members of the pension funds, so that my mother has a share certificate, so that like fence her farm, then she's got security to do that. You know what I mean?
So you really want to make the savings accessible, because with the example you gave of BPO, the money is ring-fenced and invested overseas. You want to come up with investments that can be more accessible, be more liquid, and be used as locally as security. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm saying to you, the mindset is just about ownership. I mean, if our president is black and it's not Trump, and if your customers are black, you have to see then we should be owning everything, you know. And one of the important things is we must have self-belief. We should not hate ourselves, because you need to understand history dictates that we were taught to hate ourselves. We were taught to hate our language. God knows why. You understand? And how is when you feel like you are in higher society. When people come to me, even my employees, I get very offended. So we need to address that. But look, for me, the mindset should also be sharing, not just ownership. The most beautiful day in Botswana is Christmas Day, because that's the day that everyone is eating and everyone are happy. And that's the environment I want. When you are an Indian Botswana and you have most of the money in a society, you are setting up yourself for unnecessary negative energy, because one, you will become the target for being robbed. So you will become like the dinosaur. If you overfeed at the expense of your environment, you will become extinct. And unless they change their approach to how they want to do business with us, instead of just having like a motive,
cutting us off.
Yeah, cutting us off, and just the sense of saying, let me exploit them, is why this revolution has come about, because it's come to a point where we're educated enough to see that we can do this ourselves. So if you ask me how to advise them, I'll advise them to integrate holistically. How do you integrate holistically? One, you get married to your black nationals, and instead of us hearing these rumors that they block their children from getting married to us, even though they go to school to us, because if you are married to a black person, you're going to have a black Botswana child, and your businesses will belong to black people. Two, I don't see them in the army. I've never seen one Indian policeman. I've never seen one Indian in the army. So it seems like their approach is really partly just about take. Look, you know how much business I've given Mr. Dada, me, my family and friends. I've got 4 BMW cars and so many Mercedes. All that money comes from me. I've got phones from everywhere, from their business.
So you're calling for a mindset change, really?
Not just with us.
Yeah.
But I'm just also asking the Indian citizen, the non-white, the non-black citizen, to understand that you are cutting yourself out. Nature will take yourself. You could be a dinosaur, you get taken out by a meteor. Nature itself dictates that we coexist. Yeah.
Which causes me to jump to my next point, which I was going to raise later, but let me raise now. There's a gentleman in the name of ATI who has actually been almost embarrassing himself on social media, where he didn't come out right, and where he ended up in the courts and so on and so forth, where he's really crying out against what he perceives as disempowerment that is taking place. What are your comments on his issue and the way he has chosen to articulate some of the concerns you are mentioning?
Look, first of all, I totally disagree with you. ATI didn't embarrass himself. I think it's a question of generation for you. You come from the Bob Marley generation, right? Okay, so the way that Bob Marley used to talk, or Public Enemy, the first rappers which we are listening to, or Run DMC, or NWA. ATI is a hip-hop music artist. He's got a way that he expresses. He's talking to his generation.
So you're educating me that it's not self-embarrassment, it's artistic expression.
It's the way he expresses. Look, let me give you an example. JayZ was caught in an interview with Warren Buffett, and he was speaking the way me and you are speaking.
Yes.
I don't speak like this on the streets. And somebody says, wow, JayZ, like somebody could say to me, wow, Bissau, I didn't know that you had such great vocabulary. I say, what do you mean? He says, you are completing sentences without the F word.
Yeah.
You understand? I said, yeah, of course, when I'm on the streets, I got to put in them things, you know, so people feel me, you know. But when I'm talking to you, it's a different forum. And if ATI is going to talk to kids the way we understand it, first of all, it's no embarrassment, and it's known history that music artists are always part of revolutions. You can look at Brenda Fassie, you can look at Bob Marley himself, you can look at Tupac, you know. That wasn't meant for your ears, you know, if you don't understand it. But the reason why it was heartfelt on the street, okay, is that he was addressing exactly what I'm talking about, uneven distribution of wealth. When we know that the business comes from the black people, and people are not out looking to let us participate, so they don't even respect us for being customers, is what he's addressing, you know. You might not understand what he's saying, but we do.
I think I do, because I felt the brunt of what he's crying about.
Yeah, so what I'm
it's
saying,
just that I expressed it differently.
What I'm saying to you is things are said in two ways. Somebody must voice the pain, right? And then we must come together to solve that problem.
Yes,
right?
Indeed.
And this is why, you know, somebody's voicing it, we all hear it. Now I'm here to come up with solutions. And going back to ATI, and he was also talking about,
this is dragged to court for some reason.
Yeah, but he was also talking about how what he does for a living is failing to put food on the table for him. That's what he was addressing. And that he's not convinced that the government is doing enough to support them. And he was also saying, because he knows it, he's never seen Motor Center sponsor a music show. I'm known for working with Fish, and we've come up with the best Miss Botswana ever in the world. You know, we're giving females Mercedes-Benzes and houses as presents. We ended up coming #2 in the world. We put Botswana on the map in China.
Through Miss Warriors.
Yeah, through Emma Warriors, and the Chinese are now buying our diamonds, our beef, and our tourism because we use entertainment to solve social ills. So ATI is important. He can bring a lot of attention to Botswana, but he's never seen Motor Center sponsoring a music show of his. He's never seen a lot of these companies.
They prefer to build clinics, I think.
Yes, but
they built 5.
Okay, but you see, please don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good that Mr. Dada does. Yes. We are talking about ATI, and ATI and what he sees, and that we as Botswana celebrate our culture. You understand what I'm saying? I also want to address him as a person and all these other artists, because Botswana's got immense talent. And I've just signed a deal with MTN in South Africa for a content agreement where I'm going to make sure the music is played in South Africa and they get paid for it because it's a subscription based with MTN. But my point is this. My advice to kids, you asked me about challenges, is yes, it makes sense to get involved in a business that you're passionate about because you won't feel the work. But if that business can't get you food and shelter, because every living species, that's the only thing, one of the things we really have in common. A bird needs a nest and needs worms and seeds, okay? A disease needs food, it eats you, and you are its shelter. You understand what I mean? So if your business cannot put food and shelter on the table, let's admit for a little bit that maybe it should be a hobby. If you ask me, ATI is my man's and them. He's my boy. Everybody knows I love these kids, all right? So if you ask me how to deal with ATI, you know, there's a lot of things in Botswana that make it difficult for kids to survive. I mean, you were talking about mindset. We're told mindset-wise, you should go to school. After you go to school, for like 20-something years you're in school, half your life. And then after you go to school, you will find a job, you are told. You will find a job. In my generation, we were told you will work for government or you will work for the BS. I said, Hell no. I'm not even listening to that. I'm going to create jobs, you understand? And we started a mini revolution where we started entering into business.
You did very well.
Yeah, so I started small because I like cars. I started with car washes. I couldn't sell cars, but I could wash cars. And I washed the cars so well. And I worked with my friends. So when the business grew, some of them were lawyers, some of them were accountants. So this is what the kids must do. They must come together to reduce the costs of business entry. You understand? Before I knew it, I was the biggest Muscom dealer and orange dealer. Then I had public
You did very well.
So I was making millions at a young age. My father didn't know anything about communication. I ran Miss Botswana. I would take soccer that people love, and I would get Kaiser Chiefs to come here. Then I set the price ticket at $200. People would complain, it's too expensive. And I say, look, if you want to watch the match, I would work with government. Go and get tested at Tebelopele, HIV test. I got tens of thousands of people tested through sports. So ATI is important. Our sportsmen are important because me and Fish, through Miss Botswana, GMIC, have managed to use sport to solve social ills.
Yeah.
So to address
and to sell the country.
Yeah, but ATI's problem is genuine, you know, is like BTV takes all their content for free. It goes to movies, to movies. BTV doesn't want to pay for your movies, doesn't want to pay for your music, you know, yet it's the most consumed thing in the world. But our laws are, how many kids?
And yet the president was encouraging, you know, content creation, with bringing in that American gentleman, what's his name?
Yes, but you see, we need follow-ups on these things. The president also encouraged us to buy Muscom, and everything we should do, we should help the president. It's very important for you to listen to me here. Government can provide us with infrastructure, roads, and can get us education, okay?
Yes.
Can provide loans, and I'll address this as well for us. But they can't put food on the table. They can't give us businesses. They're limited. We are supposed to, supposed to make sure that we provide that. We help the government in providing businesses. It's key. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to work alongside the president. You understand?
True.
And listen to him.
Yeah.
He brings that American comedian. What's his name again?
Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey here. Did anybody ever call the president to say, yo, I've got something for Steve Harvey? I don't know. I know I follow up on a lot of things the president tries to do. He's talked about we should build rehabs. I did that. He talks about we should bring Muscom to be owned by Botswana. I'm doing that. You understand? And you must help the president. I mean, our poor president has been...
He has the right message.
He's got the right message, he's got the right attitude, but all he gets is distractions and oppositions. When he came into power, he was the first president to be opposed for presidency when he was chosen to be by Mavenson. That was terrible. He couldn't even do much in his first year. He was fighting that. The same gentleman, our former president that ushered at him, then started talking bad against him, making it difficult for him. The same people in the BDP started fighting him. When he wins the elections legally. For the first time, our elections are being opposed in court. After he's finished with that, COVID.
So we need to pray for him.
We need to help him, yeah.
Now, I want us to talk again about broad-based economic empowerment in terms of this special purpose vehicle that you are creating. I want the viewers, want you now to understand how they can become part of that. Not in terms of the intent, which is, you know, to get those 10,000 pullers or what to do now. This interview ends, what should the Motswana who's listening do?
Let me give you an example. Whatever business ideas that you have there, say for example you have a piece of land, before you sell it to our Indian brothers, understand that we've pulled a group of expertise and a group of money we can help you invest. And we're not hard to find as all. The first thing you can do is you can start by following me personally on Facebook and Instagram, because that's where the movement has started. So whenever you comment in our posts, you can reach out to us and say, look, I've got a business, I need help, I need support. We'll reach out to you. I mean, like, this is on a face-to-face level. We respond to everything that we hear. If you're looking for a mentor and you've got a business, you reach out to us. That's what we do. We were blessed to be a blessing. Everybody's purpose in life is to serve God's will, right?
Yeah.
So I've got enough food and shelter for generations. So my job is to make sure that God's blessings pass through me. It's almost like
God for that.
I've got a river that's running through my backyard. I'm not damming it. I'm making sure the water is flowing through to the people, you know. Everybody's got a part to play. That's why God made us all different,
true.
you know. But you got to have self-belief, you know.
Very true. I mean, Abraham was told that the reason you are blessed is so that you can be a blessing. So it's exactly what you're doing. Now, what are the challenges associated with existing empowerment vehicles like Leah and C.E.E? You've studied them. What do you think are the challenges, and why are they not achieving the purpose that they were intended, at least within the time they were intended to be achieved?
What people need to understand is that there's more money, really, in the world than there is profitable businesses. So what that means is, even though C.E.E is making it easier for you to get money, it's hard to find businesses for that money to sit in as a home and make more money. Because I've given you an example. If you want to set up a phone shop, how are you going to compete with Cell City, even though you see we all have phones? Because they've got more money than you, and they've got BPOP of money, which is your parents' money, which your parents don't have a share certificate for.
You have no control over.
So what we are doing is, I've told you, we've got Finance House, we've got Mascom that we're buying, we've got Payless that we're buying. We've got concessions we're buying in the Delta. We're buying these water companies. We're going to share them with 1 million Botswana. You need to pay closer attention to us and reach out to us. We post our things to say, look, I want to invest in Finance House. We'll give you the write-up, the business plan. You go to C.E.E, you get that money, say you want to invest $1 million. We'll tell you how much your million will grow by, except that you're still in school, or you're a civil servant, or you have no business expertise. Put your money in there and learn how to invest through us, you know, because we have the best professionals in town, well-regulated people. Everybody that works with us is regulated by INBFIRA, because, you know, we deal with investments in
and
the
other
business.
bodies like the Law Society and so on.
And you got the Law Society. So what I'm trying to say to you is, be careful of running to C.E.E and take that money, because you might take your mother's house that's worth $2 million to start a phone shop, you know, and then little do you know you won't survive in the business. You know,
because your mother's pension,
and that's your mother's pension,
going to be used to compete against
your mother's pension is being used to compete against you, because BPF owns half of Cell City, but your mother has no Cell certificate. I'm just giving you an example, but my point is, don't be in a rush to take money, because 9 out of 10 times you'll fail, because you have seasoned people. Look for investments that accommodate who you are. That you're a civil servant, you can't do the business because you're busy. That you're a civil servant, you've got no business experience. You understand what I'm saying? So the problem with C.E.E and these youth money and Leah is that the first thing they must do is do not attempt to do business without a mentor, and hopefully a mentor that invests in your business. If you think Mr. Mogobe is a great businessman, then when you see Mr. Mogobe in business, it's the same as looking at Ronaldo in sport, in soccer, you know. And if you think it's easy to be a Ronaldo without Ronaldo's advice, then good luck, because it doesn't work that way. You know, you've put in over 20 something years in this, and you are a trained lawyer on top of that. You understand what I'm saying? And you're the perfect example of somebody that went to school, then worked a little bit, then because you want to have passive income, then you invested your money in property. Don't just jump on C.E.E money. You'll have your mother's house at 2 million. You'll take C.E.E money. You lose the money. C.E.E will have to take your house. You've made us poor again. And C.E.E also has to be careful in just taking people's assets.
They've said they're not interested in people's assets.
It's not
publicly.
It's not true. That's not true. If you sign a personal surety, it means you're coming for even my socks. Okay, all right. Forget. At least limited liability is the best thing ever invented in business. You're better off using a security and say, if this business fails, just take this.
But you know, all banks, including C.E.E, they insist on personal suretyship.
Mr. Mogobe,
they do.
I've told you this before. If you know how to do business, it doesn't work that way. You mustn't be desperate to do a deal. You understand? If right now FNB wants to finance your building and you've paid for half of it, you understand what I'm saying? And you're saying you're looking for 100 million to pay for a 200 million building, okay? and you've already paid for the other 100. Why should you sign a personal surety? Why? I can they can use the building as security.
True.
Otherwise and this is a good point. You must understand that good business ideas can never need money. Lend to share. If you've got a business idea, for example, using your example, if you've got 100 million to build a 200 million building, why you run into the bank? Why don't you invite investors to pay for the other 100 million so you're debt free? You see?
Good point.
Yeah.
Now let's go further and talk generally about political activism, or in this case, we're really talking about citizenship empowerment activism. To what extent is there a danger of stepping in the toes of politicians by operating in a political arena with these ideas? Because sooner or later you need the approval of the political system.
Let me tell you something like straight up. If you're trying to be rich, okay, in life, I'm sure we all are. Politics is not the place for you, Rawa, because it's not as rosy as people think. I can name names that sacrifice their lives for politics and they'll get nowhere. What I'm trying to say to you is one of the things I was told is never to become a politician. My father made it very simple to me. He says, Bissau, one day they're going to ask you to become the Minister of Youth, you know. I know you're going to turn out to be a great man. I'm not even worried, okay?
Yeah.
And he says to me, when that happens, don't accept being a minister. How are you going to talk to HE when you're a minister? Because first of all, you can't talk to your boss just anyway. You understand what I'm saying? Secondly, if you're a minister, you can't tell me you don't want to be a president. You understand what I'm saying? So how's the president going to believe I'm genuine when I want his job? You understand?
Yeah.
How difficult was it for Masisi to become president under Ian? Masisi is the best psychologist I know, and he's got the best courage, and that's what you need. You need psychology and courage. Do you understand what I'm saying? And talking about HE, then people will say, yo, why is HE investing with Indians? India. HE, like everybody, is allowed to invest in business, please. And HE bought those shares before he was president either way. Not only is it legal, he was a vice president at best. And a vice president doesn't even have 1% the power of a president.
Some of the shares apparently were acquired around the COVID period.
No, listen to me. No, you see, we can't talk rumors, Mr. Maho.
Okay.
Let's talk facts.
Thanks for educating me.
Okay, right. So I'm saying to you, the president, if he can convince the Indians to sell us part of their shares when he was just vice president, then I want to be with the president every day. Or more shares, and we'll support those businesses. This is the president that I want. I've told you, everybody should be allowed to do businesses, but you just declare your interest. That's it. Yeah. That's how we know he's not hiding it. If he wanted to hide it, he would have used somebody else's name. He's being open. You know what I mean? And I want a president that participates in business, because then he can understand what you're talking about when you're talking about civil service sabotage. I want to have businesses that are owned by all of us, especially by our politicians and leaders jointly, so that they can feel our pain. Treat people the way you want to be treated. We've got to kill this opposing force.
I want to talk a bit more about political activism. Entrepreneurs working within the political space. How do we interact with these politicians? Because I'm sure you accept that being a government that is basically public sector driven, which is trying to move to private sector driven, we have to deal with our politicians. How do we maneuver as entrepreneurs in the political space to get some of these changes we're looking for?
Look, there's no change that's going to come about in life unless we're talking about it. We're talking. You understand what I'm saying? Unless we start talking, and then we find a way to talk to them. So all these forums that I've heard about, Bokim, all of that, I don't know anything about those things, and I've been in this money-making game forever. I've never joined them. The real players are people like me and you, and we shouldn't wait. There's so many things that help you progress in life that you'll realize people can't do for you, Ramoho. Number one, nobody can stop drinking alcohol for you. You did it by yourself and progressed. Nobody can exercise for you. You do it for yourself. I wish I could pay you to exercise for me. It can't happen. No, you understand what I'm saying?
I can't do your push-ups.
Yeah, no one can eat right for you. You don't eat meat and you look great. You understand? And you feel great, but nobody can do it for you. So everything that you want to achieve in life is people need to stop reaching out too much. You need to reach in. I'm here with you. It takes one person, then two, to start any form of revolution. Me and you, okay, can make a call, I'm sure, and any minister or even the president will see us. So we should attract people to come and see me and you in this nice restaurant. By the way, I love supporting black products, so I'm great to be here at Black.
And Black and Nonas, yes.
And I'm serious. I want us, me and you, I want you to sell us half of your business, Batswana, this restaurant.
Well, I'm planning it for the second phase.
I want V to own part of this business. I want ATI to own part of this business. And then I guarantee you, you'll get great support and God will bless you for that. And you'll see what I mean by sharing. So I'm saying to you, we need to meet with them, and they will see us. They're politicians, they need our votes, and let's go forward with them. And let's go with them with business opportunities. Let's go with them and say, opportunity kids, somebody must see like and let's sponsor politicians to a point where they can sponsor themselves through
that one we've done well.
Through
to the point where they can sponsor themselves.
Through the businesses we share with them. So that we don't have South Africans like Muti coming here and wanting to take over our country, or Bridget Mutsepe being accused of ABCD. And or complaining that BDP is being driven by Dara and Jagdish. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right, we've come to the end of our time together. What would be your final takeaway, if you like, one powerful, inspirational message that you want to share with the viewer?
It's just one. Everything belongs to God. Every single thing. And it doesn't matter how big your problem is. If you are alive enough to tell me you have a problem, I'm going to ask you one question. You are here, you are breathing. Your answer is yes. I'm going to ask you another question. Has God ever forsaken you? The answer is no. So I never lose. I always win. It's always I'm making money or I'm learning, even if you think I'm losing. And everything creates value. So at the end of the day, you must emulate God. You are building His image. So you have to have a sharing nature. You must shine on all of us like the sun. You must rain on all of us. And let's stop buying things that God gives us for free, like land. Let's find ways to make sure everybody gets a piece. The world becomes a better place. Imagine if Botswana was Christmas every day. So
I was actually going to ask you if there's any country like UAE or even Poland or whatever, Singapore, that you think we should emulate, or our uniqueness is such that we should
look. You should always move from darkness towards light. Let's say the let's say it's always.
I went to that school.
Yeah, you see, it goes hand in hand with knowledge, and the more knowledge you have about something, the better position you are to exploit it profitably. So, but Botswana is the most special place in the world. It is where life started. We've heard that. I've asked Jagdish, these are my friends, these Indian guys. And I've asked Ram, you've got so much money, why aren't you going back to India? He says, the spirit in Botswana exists. When I voted for Masisi, I was protecting a spirit that I'm living within now. And you can't take it away from Masisi. This revolution you're talking about, he started. He's not saying he's just saying, can you treat us with respect? He says, that's why but how about when the chips are down?
And they quickly moved.
So there is no place like Botswana. But this is what I'm saying. I want everybody out there to stop making personal sacrifices, to listen to their voice, I want to stop drinking, stop having unprotected sex, stop doing drugs, stop doing this. Because once you improve your life, I guarantee you, through making hard sacrifices, and the biggest sacrifices is sacrificing things you love the most, okay? And when you do that, your life improves, all right? So it's called delayed gratification. We need to move away from instant gratification like cocaine and alcohol. We all know the movies promote this stuff. We know it. We know it's hard to resist. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm saying to you, Once you improve your life through personal sacrifices, then the life of your family improves. Then the life of your community. Then the lives of the lives of people in your country. Then the lives of the people in your neighboring country. Our Zimbabwean brothers, we have no xenophobia.
Yeah.
And people must marry into each other. I want to stress this. In South Africa, I was telling the political leaders there that encourage the white people to get their daughters to marry into black families so that the land belongs to Banabalo Nabotleba, the grandchildren, and they won't leave with the expertise. You understand? Let's marry across tribes. What's this talk about tribalism? What's this talk about opposition?
I think in Botswana we've been doing it forever.
And honestly, I had this conversation even at around HE, or when we marry into each other, that's true integration. I'm married to our opposition. Now we're one family. So whenever I have a problem about Tobalwan, you get the families to marry, and we're one big happy family.
All right.
Because the future is for the children.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bissau. I really honor you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
You've been a wonderful spokesman for this cause.
Thank you, sir.
I'm fully behind you.
Thank you.
Some people would want to know how to take this conversation further. So please, can you share your contacts, all of them, with the viewer as we conclude?
Okay, sure. You can always send me a WhatsApp. It's easier that way on one of my numbers, 74658509 or 74258070. And I'll definitely get back to you. But if you want to stay in complete touch with me, just follow me on Facebook or follow me on Instagram. I use my names, Bissau Gaobakwe, and all I've got to say is let's agree to take this country forward.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, sir.